All right, well, we'll get started. For those of you who haven't been to one of these, the way we normally work them is the first few minutes are just signing in like you are now, and a short introduction by me about the topic that we're going to be discussing in the small groups, and also be part of the meditation as well. So it'll be about 10 or 15 minutes of introduction and about maybe a 20-minute meditation. And then 30 minutes, we'll break into small groups of about 4. And then we'll have about maybe 20, 25 minutes to share as a whole group until we close about an hour and a half from now. So that's the structure. These, as I might have mentioned a minute ago, these meetings are recorded, but just the part that we're doing now, and also the meditation. And once we start sharing, I'll turn the recording off. So when I was thinking about a theme for today, I thought about Brené Brown's work, and as you might guess from the number of resources of hers. By the way, can you hear me? Just show me a physical hand if you can. Good, okay. And do I have our transcripts showing up for those who want closed captioning? Is that showing up or not? I don't see it on my laptop. I'm wondering if that's there. Okay, I just didn't have the subtitles on there. Okay, good. There's a lot of Brené Brown stuff on the website, so it's probably no secret that I like her work. There's the 3-minute animated videos on blame and empathy, which got added just in the last year or so. So if you haven't seen those, you can go take a look at those. Those are week 6. And of course, there's the 21-minute talk of Brené's on vulnerability that went viral about 10 years ago. I just looked at it yesterday. It has had 18 million views. I was looking back at some of the things that she wrote. One of her books is called "I Thought It Was Just Me," and you've probably had the experience of being with somebody or a group of people, and you're nervous about sharing something, thinking that others are going to judge you because it was so personal, or it seemed like nobody else was thinking what you were thinking. But what happened was the opposite of what you expected. And when you shared it, it brought the other people closer to you. And that's really not unusual. And the complete subtitle of Brené Brown's book, "I Thought It Was Just Me," is just 2 words. It isn't. That's the whole subtitle. And Carl Rogers once said that which is most personal, thoughts and feelings that you think are yours alone, are actually most universal. And I'll say that again. That which is most personal is most universal. And that's actually a profound truth. It's most often what we think is only our thought is also shared by the people that are just not saying it, don't have the courage that you might have had to share that. And I might have shared with you in another context or another meeting an interaction I had with an Intel executive 25 years ago that relates to this kind of dynamic. And I had to call him up, and his name was Paul, and tell him that I was going to miss an important meeting, a meeting actually that was called for me. And I was supposed to be flying to Portland to work out some technical issues with a product of mine. This is when I was doing computer work, and it was a product Intel was marketing. But I realized only a few days before that a special dinner that Lauren and I had planned for our daughter Tracy's birthday was on the very same day as the meeting. And I promised her I'd be there. And Paul, the Intel manager who was coordinating the meeting, was talking to, he'd spent weeks working out schedules and travel with the Intel engineers and marketing managers who I'd be meeting with. And I knew he would be upset. And sure enough, when I told Paul I needed to reschedule the meeting, he went ballistic. He said, "Are you kidding me?" So we spent a month coordinating travel and schedules for everyone. You asked for this meeting. It's your product. What could possibly be more important? And I quickly tried to think of some sort of business reason that could satisfy him, like some big deal I had going, and I realized that nothing I could make up was going to be acceptable. And Paul was one of these hard-nosed, result-oriented, no nonsense, no excuses kind of managers that Intel was known for, and is, I guess. And I knew nothing I could make up was going to satisfy him. I didn't know what to do, so I just gulped and I told him the truth. And I promised my daughter that I'd be there for her birthday dinner that we'd been planning for her. And you know what he said? He says, oh. He said, how old is she? And I said, 9. And he said, so my son's 8. If I promised him I'd be there for a special dinner and they canceled, it would break his heart. You can't miss her dinner. We'll just reschedule. And that was literally the last time he ever mentioned it. We did reschedule a meeting, it went fine. And we worked together smoothly for years, never even mentioned it once after that. And he's the kind of guy who would remember things and bring them back. And had I not had the emotional courage to share with him what I was afraid would result in an explosion from him, the interaction would have gone much differently. And Brene Brown sometimes mentions where the word courage comes from. It comes from the Latin word for heart, cor, C-O-R. And she says that courage originally meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. There's a story about a journalist who asked a famous bullfighter, he says, you have so much courage, it must be great not to feel fear. And the bullfighter just scoffed and he says, to fight a bull without fear, that's stupid. Well, because of fear, that's cowardice. But to fight a bull with fear, that's courage. And that's really Brene's message. The 21-minute video is too long to show here in this in the time that we have together, but I put together a few shorter talks that I combined into one 7-minute video that we'll look at together. And if you want to have that link, I'm going to put in chat something that will enable you to get to the link. And that has this video and also the 21 longer video that Brene Brown did that went viral. And if I can figure out how to do a share screen smoothly, I'm going to do that so we can start the video. Let's see where the video is. It should be here. There it is. Optimize for a video clip. And here we go.
True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. You don't measure vulnerability by the amount of disclosure. Live tweeting your bikini wax, not vulnerability. I'm not gonna bullshit you. Vulnerability is hard, and it's scary, and it feels dangerous. But it's not as hard, scary, or dangerous as getting to the end of our lives and having to ask ourselves, what if I would have shown up?
So one of the things that we do in our personal lives is we try to combat not being enough by pleasing and performing and perfecting. We go through our lives trying to be who we think we're supposed to be, doing and saying what we think people want to hear, putting on whatever mask or face we think we need to put on for that moment. And what that leaves us is exhausted. When we're pleasing and perfecting and performing, we end up saying yes a lot when we mean no, right? And we also end up saying no when we mean, oh, heck yes, I want to do that. I really want to do that. And you know what? Even though I have a lot of work, I want to do it now. I don't want to do it 5 pounds from now. I don't want to do it when I'm great. I don't want to do it when I've practiced. I just want to do it now. But we don't have those boundaries when we don't feel like we're worthy and enough. I have this ring. I don't know if you can see it. It's got these little spinners on it. And I bought it for my 41st birthday, the one where I aged 21 years and 12 months. And it has spinners. And my whole new thing is when someone asks me to do something now, I spin my ring 3 times before I answer. And it's my boundary ring. And what I say to myself when I'm spinning it is very simple. And it's choose discomfort over resentment. Brene, can you bring 5 dozen cookies to school tomorrow? Nope. What happens when we say, sure, I'll be glad to bring the cookies up to the school? Like, if you know me, you know I'll go right into my very high voice. Sure, I would love to. Peanut free, right? And then what happens is you're home in your kitchen, and your kids want you to be kind and gentle with them, but you're like this. I hate these people. I hate these kids. I hope they choke on my cookie, you know? So how do we do things without resentment, you know? And it takes boundaries. So in the end, I think if we take away anything from the authenticity piece, it is about the courage to be imperfect, to be vulnerable, and to set boundaries. Because the whole idea of I am enough starts with enough. Steve and I, for a long time, had a list of everything we wanted, like our achievement list. Maybe a lake house. Like every other person I know, I want a bigger house with a guest room. No one will ever come. But for some reason, it's just like this draw, right, to have the guest room. Well, when the wholehearted research came out, it fundamentally shifted the way we live, the way we parent, everything. And so we decided to make a list of everything that was happening in our lives when we felt really joyful. Like what's happening, not a want list, but like actually based on evidence, like we're the happiest when what's happening. And we looked at this list, and the list was the opposite of the want list. The want list dictated to us that we needed to work more and make more money, and the joy list meant less work and more time. Here's the part where we all struggle. Worthiness does not have prerequisites. We need to find a way to engage with the world from a place of worthiness. We need to find a way to say, I'm enough. This is who I am. Because I literally believe that our lives depend on it. So thank y'all very much.
What does it mean then to dare greatly?
To me, it means the courage to be vulnerable. It means to show up and be seen, to ask for what you need, to talk about how you're feeling, to have the hard conversations. You know, when we asked people in the research, you know, what is vulnerability to you? And let me tell you, I was raised that vulnerability is weakness, like
Right.
most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was.
Most people think vulnerability is weakness.
Right.
And you know what? After reading Darren Greatly, what I realized, and The Gifts of Imperfection, what I realized, first of all, is I live in the space of vulnerability. And that is what has made me so successful, is my vulnerability with the audience.
For sure.
And I think that vulnerability is sort of the cornerstone of confidence. I think it's the cornerstone because
I believe that.
because unless you can allow yourself to take the risk, to be open, to live as a wholehearted person, when you can do that, you recognize that you're really just like everybody else. And that gives you the confidence to be yourself, which is all you really need in life, is to be
That's
more
it.
of yourself.
And I do believe, you know, coming from vulnerability as weakness, when we asked people, what is vulnerability? And they said things to us like, the first date after my divorce, trying to get pregnant after my third miscarriage, sitting with my wife who has stage 4 breast cancer, making plans for our young children. You know, the biggest examples that came up from the research was picking up the phone and making a call to someone who's just had a great loss.
Oh, yes.
You know, and I thought about that in my own life. Like, you know, there's the phone. I walk up to it and I'm like, what am I going to say?
What am I going to say? That's what everybody fears.
That's
What am
going to
I
make
gonna
it
say?
better.
Yeah.
There's
yeah,
nothing I can say except I'm here, I'm hurting with you, you're not alone. But you know what? I'll call in an hour. And then I come back an hour, I'm like, oh man, it's dinner time. I'm going to make a casserole. I'm going to make an expensive casserole.
We've all done that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what happens when an hour turns into a day, turns into a week, and then
Yeah.
it's a month later, and you run into that friend at the grocery store?
Well, you know what?
And you
What
didn't
hap-
call.
Just to show up. That's all people want.
That's
It's just
it.
is for you to show up and say, I don't know what to say, but I'm here.
I can't fix this,
Yeah.
but I'll walk through the pain with you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, but then what is the feeling that we get when we make the call and we hang up? To me, that feeling is when I'm aligned with my values. And courage is my value.
Absolutely.
And you can't get to courage without walking through vulnerability, period.
So we're about to go into meditation, and it'll be sort of on this theme. So if you just want to make yourself comfortable. And however you're sitting, just notice how it is to be sitting there. Just taking stock of the body sensations, what your body is telling you about being here now. How your feet are making contact with the floor. or the cushion or the couch, whatever you're sitting on. How you're supported by what you're sitting on. The actual sensations of contact, of pressure, of warmth, or coolness. And noticing this is actually a two-way street. You're paying attention to body sensations, and that's coming from your body to you, but you're also reaching back to your body, and you're letting your all parts of yourself that you're there and you're paying attention. It's a two-way street. You notice how your arms are resting along your sides or on your lap. And when you're ready, paying attention to breath, wherever it is you experience it most vividly right now. Your chest, your throat, your nostrils. The important thing is not where you're paying attention to, but that you're paying attention to the actual sensations of breathing. Sometimes it's hard not to feel like you're directing the breath, but you don't need to. Most of the time, you're not aware of breath. Now you have the opportunity to pay attention to it, but not have to control it. Just letting it go. If there's some control, that's okay too, just letting that be. And if your attention wanders from breath, that's perfectly okay. That's part of the meditation. And when you realize that, that's a wake up. So, oh, coming back to breath, gently and firmly, but gently, with kindness to yourself. When you're ready, you might recall a time in your life when you took a risk. You said something to someone or did something for someone or spoke out when others disagreed or when you thought you were the only one. And what it felt like when you did this before, when you're afraid of what people might think, when you're actually sharing what you shared, and after you'd shared it, maybe you discovered that you weren't alone. Or maybe it was something that required a lot of courage because you did to get acknowledgement afterwards. But you spoke your truth. Or it could be the time when you shared something that was very personal, something you were afraid others would judge you for, but it turned out differently. That they felt closer to you instead of rejecting you. Or if you're not having a particular time come up for you, or you want to consider a time when somebody else shared something very personal or spoke when it seemed like the opinion that they raised was different than everybody else's, and the surprise was that that person was not alone. might have been one of those situations where they were the one willing to say that the emperor has no clothes. And nobody else was sharing that until they spoke. And then all of a sudden it was, oh yeah, me too. And the next 7 or 8 minutes will be in silence. And you can continue with this meditation about emotional courage, or have it be breath meditation, or whatever kind of meditation you'd like it to be. It can be your time. And you'll have our bell at the end to mark the end.